You know what time it is, my brothers. It's fight morning. UFC 292, Boston, Massachusetts. The time is now 12 fights, 8 of which are currently favored to end inside the distance. Looking forward to breaking down all of these matchups. Let's get things kicked off with a rematch in the women's flyweight division, where we have Karine Silva taking on Maryna Moroz. We saw these two ladies lock horns a number of years ago. I believe it was 2014. And Karine Silva came out with a Superman punch and tried to muscle her way to victory, but Maryna Moroz would have none of that. She ended up throwing up an armbar, locking up the submission. In that bout, you could see, even though it was a long, long time ago, Karine Silva was a physical specimen even back then. Now, both of these fighters are well along in their careers. I believe that Maryna Moroz has reached her ceiling with a loss to Jennifer Maia. And Karine Silva, 29 years of age. Look at that physique. She's put in a lot of time and effort in the strength and conditioning room. Karine Silva is a threat on the mat. She is a powerful fighter with some jiu-jitsu up her sleeve. And Maryna Moroz, I will give her some credit. She did not give her up on herself in many fights. I've seen her not give up on herself. And she's going to come out here, try to do the same thing that she did last time. I am going to be picking Karine Silva to win in this matchup. I understand. I see a lot of folks on the timeline on Maryna Moroz here, but I think the physicality is going to come into play. I know that Moroz likely has the better cardio here, but I'm going to be picking Karine Silva. And I go back, I watched the Danielle Taylor fight with Maryna Moroz, and that's something that really, oh man, that was a soul destroyer of a fight to watch them stand at range, and she dropped the ball in that matchup, Maryna Moroz. Give me Karine Silva. Second bout of the night. Second ladies bout of the night, where we have Andrea Lee taking on Natalia Silva. Natalia Silva coming in as the minus 325 betting favorite, taking on Andrea Lee, who we know very, very well. Andrea Lee, who, looking back at it, dropped a fight to Lauren Murphy in Texas. That's another one that I cannot get out of my head. And Andrea Lee, the taller fighter here, the much more experienced fighter who is now, I believe, 34 years of age, Andrea Lee. So she's got a lot of miles on the odometer. And Natalia Silva is the, I don't want to say flavor of the week, but a lot of MMA Twitter has fallen in love with Natalia Silva. It's clear that they see a talented fighter who has some flashy techniques and is slick and is a positive influence on the community. Is she going to run into a bit of a brick wall here in Andrea Lee? Possibly. We saw Macy Barber, who really threw caution to the wind in her matchup with Andrea Lee. She was like a bull in a china shop out there, Macy Barber, and we've seen Barber fight like that in years past, and Andrea Lee really took advantage of that. In this spot, Natalia Silva, 26 years of age, improving every time out. Women's mixed martial arts, there is a lot of volatility here. So from camp to camp, you'll see fighters grow. I'll be picking Natalia Silva, but I have no action on this fight. And one of the reasons that's the case is Andrea Lee, she has shown that she has some grappling prowess, but the physicality is what Andrea Lee typically lacks. I know against Barber, she was opportunistic in her approach there, but I think that Natalia Silva is going to use her footwork and her kicking game to cause Andrea Lee some fits here. So give me Natalia Silva in that matchup. Next up, we have a grappler's delight in Andre Petrosky taking on Gerald Meerschaert. Gerald Meerschaert, GM3, coming as the plus 190 underdog here, and he's taking on a Petrosky who, it's interesting. The fighter has a limited gas tank. He's extremely muscle bound for the division, undersized for the middleweight division. He lacks reach. He lacks the longevity to go a solid 3 rounds. He was running on fumes last time out. I'm a little shocked that the fight doesn't go the distance line, isn't wider here. And I know it's sitting in the minus 200s. This fight, I see Meerschaert potentially getting manhandled on the mat early, getting caught in a death grip here of Andre Petrosky. But the more I listen to GM3, he's a very intelligent guy. You watch the tape and you listen to his interviews, and he said that he's going to basically let Meerschaert come to him and toy with him, be the matador, and use his footwork. But he's not necessarily known as a striker here, and I don't trust GM3's in-fight decision-making. So what's going to happen here? What's going to play out, my brothers? I'm feeling a Petrosky submission victory. That's going to be the official pick, but GM3 does have some solid submission defense, and we've seen Petrosky gas his arms out in certain situations. I'll be picking Andre Petrosky here. I'm not going to be touching his minus 230 money line. If I was to touch anything, it would probably be the under 2.5 here. I think that both of these fighters in the larger octagon, somebody's going to make a catastrophic error. I believe that is what's going to take place. We've got a bunch of comments here this morning. Sergio, good morning. Great to have you. Great to have you. And we've got West GA Fresh. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome aboard. Happy fight day, Brian. Great to see you. Thank you for choosing to spend your morning here with us. Let's get to the tough finale fights, shall we? First of which, we've got Brad Katona, who we're very familiar with, taking on Cody Gibson. Cody Gibson, a UFC retread, who was fighting in Eagle FC, taking on the likes of Ray Borg recently as well. I believe I had a play on Ray Borg against Cody Gibson, and we saw that Gibson is a fighter who's a blood and guts wrestler, long fighter. You don't typically see these tall, lengthy wrestlers, and he is one that can push a pace. He's getting up there in age, closing in on 36 years of age, and the length here, the grind could potentially be somewhat of a adversity maker for Brad Katona, who we know exactly what we're going to get from Brad Katona. I've watched his entire career play out, and he is a very well-rounded fighter. Does not make a lot of big mistakes. Will hang in fights. He's going to be at a severe reach and height disadvantage here. And man, I have a feeling that Gibson is going to be the potty pooper here. That's my take on this matchup. Katona is a fighter who's a meat and potatoes type of fighter, who's not going to be looking to land any flashy strikes, is going to try to come in and grapple and establish a dominant position. But I believe Cody Gibson is live in this matchup, and I'll be picking the underdog here at plus 145. I don't have a play on the bout. One of the reasons being is that Brad Katona's fight IQ is typically fairly high. So it's going to take a lot of work against the fence. Also, Cody Gibson pushing a pace here to get this one done. And by the way, Gibson, it looked like he really exerted himself headed into this weigh-in. He looked like he's really, really drained himself here. But both of these fighters Their backs against the wall, tough finale. Give me Cody Gibson here. Next up, we have another tough finale fight. We've got Austin Hubbard, Thud, taking on Kurt Holobaugh. Kurt Holobaugh, another fighter who's up there in age, 36 years of age, coming in as the plus 154 underdog. And Austin Hubbard, you go back and watch his fight against Davi Ramos and how he was able to survive that fight really blew me away. I was impressed with his survivability. Austin Hubbard. He did that in the Max Roshkov fight, has fought hard and come on late in many fights also. Folks have likened Austin Hubbard to a Corey Sandhagen light. Fights out of Colorado, mimics some of the techniques of Corey Sandhagen, but he isn't Corey Sandhagen. I will be picking Austin Hubbard here, though, primarily because you watch Kurt Holobaugh's fighting style, and I know that he impressed some folks on The Ultimate Fighter, but look at the level of competition that he faced there, and you look at Kurt Holobaugh. The man tends to perform well when he's functioning within close distance. Austin Hubbard is a fighter who likes to fight at range, who will use his footwork. These fights take place in the larger octagon. I must mention that as well. So that's something to take into account here. So give me Austin Hubbard. I think that he has more gas in the tank, has the better cardio here, and is the more durable fighter. Give me Austin Hubbard. Liam, good morning. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for your support. Thank you for also giving me a chance to shine on your platform as well. I know this is a labor of love for me, putting out the fight morning breakdowns just about every fight card. I know we missed last week, though. I was actually on vacation with my wife and kids, and we had very poor internet coverage out there. I was unable to go live, but it feels great to be back here today, and it really is a blast. And the checklist for today is to drink coffee and win. And I'll tell you what, folks, I am fasting this morning because my wife reminded me that I have to get blood work done in a couple of hours. So I'm spiritually ingesting the coffee this morning. That is what I'm doing. And I will be having some coffee shortly after we get the blood work done. George, thank you for the support, for the ad revenue that we are now collecting off of Twitter. And I just wanted to mention that briefly. I've subscribed. I believe this is the third year to StreamYard Premium, where I believe it's about $500-$600 or so per year. And I have been absorbing those costs, putting out free content for a while now. And this is a labor of love. So I appreciate everybody who can benefit from the tweets that I've put out on a regular basis, and just helping people leave with more money in their pockets. That's the bottom line here, helping you profit. So let's continue the journey, my brothers. And next up, we have a fire matchup, as they say, between Gregory Rodriguez, RoboCop, and Dennis Tululin. Tululin coming in as the plus 280 underdog here. And this is a fighter who's been finished, I believe, 4 or 5 times in his 17-fight professional career, which is a major red flag for me. Also, you look at the wins that he's picked up. Jamie Pickett, you're getting destroyed by the Iron Turtle, and you're fighting a Gregory Rodriguez who was just brutally knocked out. But Rodriguez has a solid ground game. I know he doesn't show it off that much. He gets caught into firefights on a regular basis, and he does not want to do that here. The chin has been checked a few times. That is Gregory Rodriguez. I do think that this fight's going to end inside the distance. I think that Rodriguez is the side here, that he's going to get back to his grappling and put on a display that we've been waiting for. And you listen to his interview with John Coe, and he talked some sense there. I know Rodriguez, extremely talented, and he has the tools to get this fight to the mat. He has the tools to finish the fight. I'll be picking Rodriguez and to win via submission. I believe that could be had at a plus number right now. The inside the distance line on Rodriguez is minus 220 or so. I think that's a little wide. You might want to shop around, but I'll be picking Rodriguez to win via submission. And Tululin, he has the power to knock out Rodriguez, and that's always a possibility. So you got to be mindful of where you put your money here, but I'll be picking Rodriguez to win inside the distance. Next up, wow, we have the return of the All-American, Chris Weidman. Hometown kid. Great guy for the sport, Chris Weidman. I've been a fan of his for many years. I remember folks giving me a heads up before he made his UFC debut, just how talented that he was inside of the training room at Sarah Longo and the crew back then. I remember hearing that he was submitting black belts, just walking right into the gym with his wrestling background at Hofstra, and came in there, and what a career this guy's had. I remember being at his fight against Kelvin Gastelum and lifting my son, must have been 2 or 3 years old at the time, when he had the choke locked up and Gastelum was gasping for air. I remember I was only sitting a few rows behind Chris Weidman's parents, and the thrill of victory inside of the Nassau Coliseum was incredible. I've also seen Chris Weidman lose to Jacare Souza, and we've seen him be on the cusp of victory, and then he ends up taking these catastrophic losses, these losses where they've really taken a toll. And now we know about the knee injuries, the many knee surgeries, the shoulder surgeries, the neck surgeries, now the leg injury coming off of the Uriah Hall fight. 2+ years away from the sport. I know that he's really put in the time to get himself back. And on the scale, Weidman, I'll say this, he did not look good. He looked emaciated. You could see him really having trouble with the light inside of where the weigh-in was taking place. And it looked like he put in a big weight cut. Now he's taking on Brad Tavares, who's sitting at minus 250. And Tavares is one tough hombre. He's a fighter who has great takedown defense, but I do believe if Weidman really goes for the takedown and he's able to close distance, he'll be able to get on top of Tavares. But that's a risk here. Tavares can throw hands, and I know that Tavares is not necessarily known as a potent finisher inside of the UFC's octagon, but he has the ability to catch some folks. And you look at the last fight against Bruno Silva. Let's cut Brad Tavares some slack. Who isn't going to look defensive out there against Bruno Silva on the feet, who throws hammers? He was backing up. He got caught, and that was a controversial finish. I believe that the referee saved Brad Tavares there and also saved some of his brain cells. So in this spot, you have Chris Weidman, who's 39 years of age. You have Brad Tavares, who's 35. Inside of the larger octagon, I think that's key too. Both of these fighters, their last wins over Omari Akhmedov. And, oh man, Weidman, I was on him there, and I believe we got him right near dog odds. And Weidman, he looked like it was the end of the road in that bout. I was surprised he continued fighting. That Uriah Hall fight, we didn't see much, but here we are. Whew. So rather than make a play on the money line here, I ended up taking fight doesn't go the distance at minus 140. I think that 15 minutes is a long time to compete especially at both of these fighters, their ages, and what is at stake here. I think there may be the first minute or so where there's a feeling out process, but after that, the grind is probably going to take place. And I see Weidman potentially catching Tavares in a submission or running out of gas and getting caught and dropped and finished. And these stories typically don't end well here. And as much as I am a fan of Chris Weidman, I have to pick against him here. I'm going to be picking Brad Tavares, and I think that Tavares gets this done inside the distance. If you do want to play the TKO or KO prop for Tavares, I believe that's sitting at plus 140 or so right now. But man, I like the fight doesn't go the distance prop, and I'll be picking Brad Tavares to win. He's more fluid. Weidman's very clunky out there right now, and I know he's been training with Wonder Boy, but you watch back the Akhmedov fight and the way that Chris was bouncing around with his hands low, that's a dangerous proposition against any fighter at 185 pounds in this sport. And I know that he's a great guy. I root for him every time out, but I'll be picking Brad Tavares. Next up, where we have Marlon Chito Vera taking on Pedro Munoz. By the way, we've got a comment here. Does Tavares target the injured leg of Weidman? I believe he does. He probably gets right on that early, but we know it's been repaired, so we'll see if that comes back to haunt him. We'll see. Let's get back to Marlon Chito Vera taking on Pedro Munoz. Now, you look at the tail of the tape here. Marlon Vera is the taller fighter, much greater reach. The younger fighter. Both of these fighters extremely durable. And you have Pedro Munoz, who he doesn't let these things affect him. He will walk right into the fire. He does it every single fight. And he's not affected by what's coming back at him. He won't get frustrated. He will just continue to march forward. We've seen it against Jose Aldo and so many others. And Marlon Vera may not be the more highly skilled fighter here, but he is a dog and he loves firefights. He loves these matchups. And I think that's one of the reasons we're going to see Marlon Vera end up being the slick fighter here who is going to use volume and use his work inside the phone booth with elbows, with leg kicks, with body strikes, and these two are going to get at it. And I know Pedro Munoz, he's pretty slick too, the way he moves his head while punches are headed towards him. He slips punches and fires right back, and this should be a hell of a war, I will say that. But Vera, the younger fighter, great gas tank also. I laid 2 units on Marlon Vera at minus 180, and I believe that he is the rightful favorite here. I'll be picking him to win, and he could win this via decision. I know that he drops a lot of first rounds. That's pretty clear. I've watched his entire career unfold. But I would not be shocked if this pace gets pushed to a point where Munoz either gets caught. The durability only lasts for so long, my brothers. Chins have a shelf life. That's something to understand. But also, are you going to bank on something that you haven't seen happen before? That's one of the reasons I'm playing the money line here and not going after the inside the distance prop. Nick is saying, I'm betting they implement the new rules on Sterling and Magny, but not on Weidman. UFC has their favorites. Well, hey, you've seen folks lobbying for the you see folks lobbying in the back for Weidman to get a title shot next. Very, very interesting. Let's see. We have Flea says he loves the t-shirt and the poster in the back, brother. Yes, that's an autographed Mike Tyson punch out, PSA authenticated peace back there. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Paying homage to one of the great games of all time. So the pick is Marlon Vera. Next up, we've got Blackshear, who's coming off of a victory last time out in spectacular fashion, getting the twister done against an opponent who had been taken down in the past. And let's be honest. I mean, it's great to get the twister. You don't see it that often, but look at the level of competition Blackshear was facing. I believe he was a minus 300 or so favorite headed into that fight. Now he's taking on Mario Bautista, who, man, you talk about the deck being shuffled here. Bautista was supposed to fight Cody Garbrandt, and now he's taking on Blackshear, who is a grappler, a slick grappler at that, who has great cardio. And the thing here, also, we have to consider how much did the weight cut, back-to-back weight cuts in a week, take out of Blackshear? Who in their right mind would stay at close to that weight right after your fight? I have to think that Blackshear put on maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 pounds to rehydrate. Now he's cutting it all down again and competing a week later against a killer in Mario Bautista. But I will say this. I watched the weigh-ins. I watched the stare downs. Bautista does have a little bit of a different look. I didn't see the same killer instinct in Bautista when I watched the weigh-ins. He typically has daggers at his opponent. And Bautista, the Canetti fight, the Lopez fight, the Kelleher fight, he's starting to really put it together here. And he's not necessarily having to throw his hands. But you look at the level of competition also. Bautista, this is his past few fights were a cakewalk. And here, I mean, he was supposed to fight Garbrandt, and I believe that was going to be a great fight where Bautista finished Garbrandt, possibly by submission again, or potentially knocked out Garbrandt. Garbrandt's at the end of his road. Talk about a fade spot moving forward. He still has name value as a former champion, though. In this spot, Blackshear's dangerous, and I have concerns that the longer this fight goes, Bautista really, he seems very tense out there, and he will go for it early. I want to see Bautista pull away and win this fight. He's one of my favorite fighters on the roster, especially at bantamweight in such a stacked division. We've seen him learn from the Trevin Jones fight. I'll be picking Bautista to win. I think that you look at all the intangibles. If Blackshear had a full camp for this fight, I think that we'd see the line be closed a little bit more here. But I'll be picking Bautista. I think it's interesting. Blackshear, I believe, has the longer reach here. I know he's not necessarily known for being a striker, but Bautista is the better, more well-rounded fighter, and I'll be picking him to win. He's got a full camp and a great team behind him too. Kyler Phillips performed last week or a couple of weeks ago, and then you have Sean O'Malley performing tonight, and Bautista, all from the same gym. It's always nice to see that. Nick says he rates Bautista very highly. Cody Garbrandt ducked that smoke. I totally agree. Totally agree with you there. Now, let's get to an interesting bout where we have Ian Garry taking on Neil Magny. I am concerned about Ian Garry potentially with some energy regulation issues, gassing himself out early in this fight because he has taken Neil Magny lightly. That's something that throughout the course of this fight week, I was concerned about it. I did lay one unit on Garry at minus 400. And I thought that was a spot because Magny's taking the fight on short notice. Garry has so many intangibles going his way, and he's also on the rise. And I like what I've seen when Garry gets tested. He can dig deep and fight back and overcome adversity. We've seen in the Kanon Song fight and others that the kid does not give up on himself. He's very, very competitive. But I did not like seeing Ian Garry in a pub last night on Twitter. It was posted he's throwing roundhouse kicks, and he's shirtless after the weigh-ins, showing off to a bar in Boston. I saw it on my Twitter page. I believe that took place last night. That blew my mind. Why isn't he resting and recovering and getting ready for the fight? You typically do a workout to shake it out, and you're having these folks show up and they have open workouts before the weigh-ins while you're cutting weight. I am a little shocked here that Gary was out there doing that. And then you have Magny here, who he's a savvy veteran. He's somebody who's going to fight hard for your money. He's going to go for it. And we've seen him get his legs chopped off by Santiago Ponzinibbio. We've seen him get finished by Khamzat Chimaev and Gilbert Burns. And he's a fighter who can be dominated at times in certain realms of the fight game. I think that Gary does have his number here. And I know JP is saying that Gary has suspect striking defense. But you look at Magny's strikes, and they don't necessarily pose a significant power threat. So it's going to be a war of attrition if Magny wins this fight. I don't think he has the knockout capability here, unless it's by numbers. And then he's going to be emptying his tank. So is this going to be a Maria Agapova Dobson fight part 2? That is a concern of mine, but I'll be picking Ian Gary to win. And I'm not going out of my way to play fight doesn't go the distance here, because Neil Magny is extremely tough. He will fight hard for your money. I'll be picking Ian Gary, though. I think that you look at the way these guys matched up. Also, Magny typically does not fight someone who has the same tail of the tape as him, and both of these guys looked around the same size. So give me Ian Gary there, and I went light on Gary, but interesting fight, and I do think that Gary is the favorite, the rightful favorite. Next up, where we have Weili Zhang taking on Amanda Lemos, co-main event of the evening. This fight could be the main event of the evening. This is a incredible matchup. Amanda Lemos, if she finds the target early, if she's the first person who finds the target, then Weili Zhang is in trouble. Because Amanda Lemos, I have yet to see another women's mixed martial artist who's able to sit down on her punches and commit to her strikes in the way that Amanda Lemos does. It's incredible to watch her out there. I was at her fight against Michelle Waterson, and I believe she won that fight via submission. But she has everything except maybe the cardio. The gas is lacking in Amanda Lemos. We saw against Angela Hill. I believe I laid the minus 300 on Lemos there, and she was lucky to cross the finish line and skate away with that victory. And now she's taking on Weili Zhang, who is someone who has evolved, and you love seeing that. She out-grappled Carla Esparza. How often does that happen? Especially when folks on MMA Twitter were banking on Esparza being the one to get the takedowns and outwork Weili Zhang on the feet, on the mat. So in this matchup, I believe the longer the fight goes, we're going to see Weili Zhang come alive and really put it on Amanda Lemos. I could see a TKO victory late. I could see a submission victory late for Weili Zhang. But I will say this. If you want to play the round 1 number on Amanda Lemos, that is the way to do it if you have targeted this fight. Marcus is saying, I think there's value on Amanda Lemos at plus 250. My head says Zhang. With that said, I'm not mad at anyone betting Lemos at those odds. Yeah, I agree with you. To a certain extent. Thoughts on Weili hiring a no-gi champion as her jiu-jitsu coach? Love it. That's a lady who has evolved time and time again. It's incredible to watch her evolution. The way she destroyed Joanna, former champion, I believe it's the second time they fought. That was beautiful to watch also. Did you expect Weili to be bigger than Lemos and make weight easy? Yeah, Lemos looked extremely, extremely drained. I do like the play on Lemos KO. If you're going to play that, I would play it light, though. There is a chance that Lemos overcommits. Jin, you are correct. And the striking defense, that is going to be a difference maker here. Whoever has solid striking defense in this matchup should cross the finish line as the victor, because if you are not able to get out of the way of the target and you're facing Amanda Lemos, you're in big trouble. You are in big trouble. So that's one of the reasons I did not play. I have not made a play on this fight. If I was to make a play, I think the under 2.5, under 3.5 is going to be in play here. There is going to be damage inflicted in this matchup. It's going to be unavoidable. And Zhang, if she wrestles, that's going to come at a cost. I know the Rose fights, we saw the second Rose fight, she went for it, and that kind of cost her down the stretch. That was a very controversial decision. But I'll be picking Weili Zhang here, and I am excited about this. Can you imagine? I almost ended the breakdown right now because I treated this as the main event of the evening. My God, this is such a great fight, Weili Zhang versus Amanda Lemos. I'm glad to see that Lemos made it to the top of the mountain to face Weili Zhang, and we're gonna see where the chips fall here. But Amanda Lemos, extremely live. Both of these fighters, they're finishers, and their killer instinct should be on full display. That's what makes this so great. Now, let's talk main event of the evening. Are you ready? Are you ready? I'm ready. Good morning, Lou. You made it. I hope you slept well. Great to have you here, and I appreciate you. Amanda Lemos and Weili Zhang, great fight. Now, let's talk main event of the evening. Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley. The Sugar Show. And Aljo, who is consistently disrespected in the audiences. You watch Aljo. I was on Aljo last time out, taking on Henry Cejudo, and came out the victor, out wrestled Henry Cejudo. How often do you see that take place? It comes down to, can Aljamain Sterling close distance here against Sean O'Malley and put Sean O'Malley on his ass? Because if he's able to do that, you'll see a lot of slack-jawed fans in Boston, and they will be in awe of Aljo's grappling prowess, because Aljamain Sterling, we've seen and we've heard for many, many years that Aljo is an incredible grappler. Go back to the Cody Stamen fight, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I've cashed on Aljo many times, and he also, I've been honored to be able to communicate with him through Twitter. I remember when he was fighting Pedro Munoz, I was wondering how he was going to deal with the leg kicks of Pedro Munoz there, and he shared that the best response to a leg kick of Pedro Munoz is an equally as lethal response. And Aljo went right back at the leg kicks with Pedro Munoz, was trading with him there. And in this matchup, I don't think we're going to see this fight play out on the feet for very long. I could see Aljo getting a finish here by TKO late. I could see it happening. I also could see Sean O'Malley landing the kill shot. That's something that I could legitimately see. We've seen Sterling. He's still, as much as he's worked on his striking, defense, and offense, it doesn't look, it looks like it's labored. It looks like there's been a lot of work put behind the scenes just to get to a level where he's able to compete. But he does throw out the long jab, and he is a grappler by trade. Now, am I going to lay the minus 265 here? No, I don't think that's the way to go. I think this fight does end inside the distance, and I'm happy to have put out a free play. By the way, all of my plays have been free throughout most of this year, and we've seen that you don't necessarily have to put your work behind a payroll to be a successful MMA handicapper. A lot of folks, they win, then they start charging for picks, and then a lot of folks end up losing. And you look around the landscape, there are a lot of folks who are having a losing year this year. So you don't necessarily have to do that. So one of the free plays I put out, this fight doesn't go the distance. Sterling and O'Malley at minus 130. And I think that was a solid line. And the other thing is that closing line value doesn't necessarily mean a gosh darn thing unless it cashes. So I'm not counting my chickens yet. I believe that this has a good chance of hitting, though. Fight doesn't go the distance, minus 130. Now it's sitting at minus 215 or so. So, Marcus, thank you. I'm glad that you tuned in. I appreciate you. So the pick is going to be Aljamain Sterling, and I believe that he's going to get this done possibly via submission. But Sean O'Malley is as live as anybody on the feet because his striking is so slick. You can see he's a natural striker. How about this, though? Can you imagine if O'Malley somehow wins this fight via submission? How wild would that be if he's able to do that? Man, I'm going to be picking Alja, though. I think that he has the ability to backpack O'Malley. He's going to be unpredictable, and basically the takedown will likely happen at the cage. And then I see Sterling pulling O'Malley's body away from the cage to make it very difficult for O'Malley to even attempt to get back to his feet. By the way, O'Malley, I know he's one of the first fighters to the scale at weigh-ins, but he looked completely drawn out to make 136. And his frame, he does not have a lot of muscle on his frame. But he's fleet of foot and he can strike. So give me Aljo, and give me Aljo to win inside the distance. But I believe the play here is fight doesn't go the distance. Thanks everybody for tuning in. You can see I've had a third-party tracked record for many, many, many years. We're headed towards our 6th consecutive winning year, third-party tracked. I've been putting out tons of free plays. Thank you. If you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing liking the video and subscribing to the channel, that really apparently helps us out. And also on Twitter, I appreciate all of the support that we've been getting recently, and thank you. So this is a labor of love. Great to get this show out early on a Saturday morning. Remember to go get what's yours, and let's do this. Okay, let's get after it. Come on, let's go. One fight at a time. 43 minutes, 12 fights. Let's go.